For our first breakfast, we made a super warming golden milk inspired porridge. So we took inspiration from the drink golden milk and we added in turmeric, some lovely spices like cinnamon and ground ginger, and then we added in some agave for sweetness, and then topped it with a bit of dairy-free yogurt, some lovely caramelized banana slices, which is one of our favourite toppings for porridge, then a little spoonful of almond butter and then some seeds on top, and then a little bit extra syrup just to sweeten it up, and it's just a really delicious warming breakfast bowl. One of our favourite breakfast recipes at the minute is a big old potato and vegetable hash. So to start off, we parboiled some little potatoes and then we added them in with some onions and oil in a pan and fried them up nice and crispy, added in a little bit of salt and pepper for seasoning. We just cooked that for a bit until it was nice and soft and the onions had caramelised. Then we added in a bit of red pepper, some mushrooms, just a few bits that we had in the fridge, so you could kind of add in anything that you've got in the fridge that you would like with the hash. Then we just added in some spinach and a little bit of lemon juice and just stirred that around till it had wilted and softened. We didn't want it to be too cooked, just with a nice bit of crunch still. And then on the side we did a bit of scrambled tofu. So we didn't have any silken tofu, which is what we normally use for this. We had firm tofu. It still worked really well and it tasted delicious. Added a bit of extra protein for breakfast, which is always good. So we served that up in a bowl with the scrambled tofu on the side, a little bit of fresh avocado sliced up and some nice cherry tomatoes, and it was so good and warming. Just a really tasty, filling, savoury breakfast.
This might seem like a bit of a random combination, but believe us, this is proper tasty. When you cook the tomatoes like this and they start to split apart and they go all soft, it's kind of like the tomatoes that you might get on a full English, but with loads of extra nice herbs and spices and some nice sharp lemon on them too. So we got a nice sourdough just from our local Sainsbury's, cut that nice and thick and popped that in the toaster. Spread on top some of this really lovely thick hummus, and then after a little while, once our tomatoes are done, we grabbed them and gave them a little squeeze and squish onto the bread and then topped them with lemon. Oh, and don't forget all of the lovely juices that come out the tomato too. You don't want them to go to waste, so pour them on top. And it really does taste as good as it looks. If you want something savoury but you also want something simple, then give this toast a try.
We're going to be making some blueberry and chocolate chip American style pancakes, and for that we want to be using these very ripe bananas. They kind of act as a bit of an egg replacer and they also add a really nice sweetness. So as you can see here, we have got some very brown mottled extra ripe bananas, and that is really the kind of banana you want. However, if you don't have the really ripe bananas, just a normal regular yellow banana will work just as well, but we would recommend you try and wait that bit longer until they've gone a bit ripe.
We're going to start off by mashing the bananas, and we find the easiest way to do this is to just give them a good old smush with the back of a fork. Next we're going to sieve in the flour and then add to that our baking powder and bicarbonate of soda to help the pancakes rise. In goes our non-dairy milk. For this recipe we're using almond milk, but any other non-dairy milk will work just fine. And then we're going to give that all a really good mix with a whisk. Mix until everything is combined, and then we're going to go in with the blueberries. For the chocolate chips, we're cutting up this bar of vegan classic chocolate from Sainsbury's Taste the Difference, but feel free to sub in your favourite vegan chocolate here. We cut this into two sizes. The smaller chunks are for the pancake batter and the larger is for topping them. In go our lovely vegan chocolate chips, and then everything is getting one last gentle whisk. Melt some butter into a large flat bottom pan and drop in a couple of scoops of our pancake mix. You'll know it's cooked when the edges start to look a little bit dry and it keeps its shape when you scoop around it. Flip that bad boy and give it a cook on the other side too. Stack them all up and finally top with your blueberries, chocolate chips and delicious maple syrup. I find that these are best served on a Sunday morning with a really well made cup of coffee, but you do you, that's just what I like best. So the next breakfast we are sharing with you is another toast, but it's not a sweet toast, it's a savoury toast. So you've probably heard of pairing beetroots with cream cheese before, but what we're making is some Za'atar spiced beetroots to go with vegan cream cheese on toast. So all we're going to do is toss the beetroots with some Za'atar and some oil and then pop that into the oven to roast. And in the meantime, we're going to cut some nice sourdough into nice thick toast slices and pop that in the toaster. It's really such a simple recipe because the next step is literally just spreading the vegan cream cheese on top of the toast and then topping that with the lovely spiced Za'atar beetroot. Just for a little bit of toppings, we're going for some freshness from some parsley, a little bit more of the Za'atar and some walnuts for a nice earthy nuttiness. And then to bring out the sweetness in the beetroots even more, we've added a bit of agave syrup over the top. This is such a nice balance of earthy, savoury flavours, and the sweetness from the agave makes this much more of a breakfasty thing than lunchy. Alright, bon appetit.
I'm not sure if this is like a knife and fork kind of thing or not. So, as far as it goes to the French toast part, it's very easy. You just add it all to a bowl and whisk it together. We would normally recommend that you do this with fresh raspberries and squish them down, but we only have frozen in, so it's a bit trickier. You could make a compote with them instead and put them on the heat, but we're just gonna try it out frozen. So I think once we get them inside the French toast and on the heat, they will kind of do the same sort of thing as if they were fresh. The more I break them down,
The more you think it's going to work.
yeah, we don't want to make jam here, or do we?
We kind of do.
both pieces of bread into the flaked almonds, but we don't have enough, so we're just doing the one side crusted with the almond flakes.
Don't worry about any bits that squish out. You can always shove them back in. Good.